Hello and welcome back to the Hoof Football Podcast, Season 2, Episode number 17, where today, myself, Ben, I'm joined by Charlie and Lewis. Charlie, we're going to start with you. How are you doing, mate? How's life been treating you?
Yeah, it's been all right, mate. In terms of watching Hull City, it's been great with beating Southampton away and Preston away. Obviously, you two did watch the AFCON final. You saw the amount of controversy which we've realised has been throughout the entire tournament of Morocco trying to rig it. Thank God Senegal won. And then, apart from that, another really painful thing to watch was I don't know if you saw the Saudi Arabia Darts Masters. Just no atmosphere whatsoever. It might be one of the worst darts events I've ever watched. Terrible.
I didn't actually watch it, but I've seen bits of it. I also saw
It,
that
it,
the
it,
new Master of Ceremonies in, I think it was in Bahrain, looked a little bit shaky.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he didn't have a great start compared to the legendary John McDonald. So he's got a bit of work to do.
It's a tough act to follow, though. I just want to go back to what you said about Morocco potentially rigging the AFCON. I don't want to get involved in any of those kind of debates. Let's not get sued by the Moroccan FA.
They
Um,
did. They did rig it. They
I
did rig it, and they also steal towels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
scummy.
that I can't
You've
say.
seen all the memes where, like, it's like when Edouard Mendy has a shower and then he realizes his towels go missing because the Moroccans are in his bathroom.
It just smells like Bari. That's what's going on there. Lewis, how are you, mate? Outside of
No,
that,
I'm good. I'm good. I'm settling into life under Liam Senior. Obviously, we got a 1-0 win against Paphos yesterday. I didn't see the game, but to say we only won 1-0 is a little bit concerning. But I don't know how good they are. They didn't play David Luiz, which is really heartbreaking. Because I wanted him to obviously come back to Stamford Bridge. And then we've got Crystal Palace, funnily enough, at the weekend. So it's a nice little segue there. We'll see how that goes.
that's a lovely segue because, as you've alluded to there, we are talking about Crystal Palace today. Because, I mean, the main tagline is what the hell's going on at Crystal Palace? It's all falling apart. When you think of the highs they were at last season, winning the FA Cup, winning the Community Shield at the start of this season, for it to unravel that much in kind of 6 months is quite impressive. So I've got a little timeline of what's happened over the last 12 days, essentially. So on the 10th of January, they produced the worst FA Cup defence in history, losing to non-league side Macclesfield. Um, Quite impressive. I'm sure Charlie was thrilled about that as a former Macclesfield employee. On the 16th of January, Oliver Glasner announces publicly in his pre-match press conference for the Sunderland game that Mark Gahey will be leaving imminently. He's not going to be in the squad, and that he himself will be leaving in the summer. The following day, after they lose that game, Glasner gives an absolute all-timer of a post-match interview, claiming to have been abandoned by the board, which initially I thought it was on about the fans, which would have been absolutely catastrophic, and started kind of airing his frustrations at the sales of Mark Gahey and Eberechi Eze, and I'm sure we'll kind of touch on that later on. 2 days after that, on the 19th of January, Gahey officially joins Man City for 20 million. And then 2 days later, on the 21st, so yesterday, as we're recording this, Jean-Philippe Mateta announces his intention to leave the club in January. There's Aston Villa and Juventus sniffing around. It's been a torrid kind of just under 2 weeks for the Eagles. Um, on top of that, they're just in bad form generally. And obviously, part of that could be due to the unrest behind the scenes, but it's six Premier League games without a win. It's 12 in all comps without a win. It's not looking good for them at the minute. Like I say, there's a lot of unrest behind the scenes. But Lewis, do you think there's anything else kind of going on that could suggest why they've been so poor lately?
I think the situations that you just obviously explained in terms of Gay and the transfer sagas, and obviously Oliver Glasner as well. I think that is probably something that you can't really plan for. What I'm trying to say, sorry, is that I think when you win the FA Cup and you're a club the size of Palace and you almost overachieve, it's always going to be expected that bigger clubs are going to come in, that the squad will obviously start to be kind of torn apart a little bit. But I don't think anyone expected this season for it to explode this quickly and to go as kind of poorly as it's gone. I do think it's a little bit strange that they obviously kept Gahey in the summer. I think it was because it was such a last minute deal near the deadline, but then they've had that cut price deal for him this window. One of the things I find interesting is that you've got to remember it's Crystal Palace, and I don't want to disrespect them in any way, but they've played 35 games this season, which is the third highest in all competitions out of all the Premier League sides. Only Chelsea and Manchester City have played more. And they've also then got 26 players in their squad, which is a very small squad. And then when you add to that with the fact that they've only made 22 changes, that's the lowest in the Premier League, but also it's nine lower than the basically the next team, which is Everton. So they're by far not rotating their squad. Obviously, we know that Oliver Glasner loves to play high octane, kind of high pressure football, and that he demands a lot of his players with his tactics. So if you add that all together, there's not really for me a surprise, it's, at least on the pitch, why they're starting to struggle and why they look so jaded. And I think that is something that is basically evident is that it's just caught up with them, the amount of football that they're playing. And it is such a big achievement that they're playing in Europe. I think that that is something that is kind of dampening them a little bit this season.
Yeah, Charlie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say about Europe how because they're playing the extra games that compared to what they're used to, it really is kind of setting them back a bit in terms of it's almost pressure him to actually make rotations. And I know Glasner's kind of it's one of them. He doesn't really want to change his squad around too much. He wants to make sure he's got his reliable players on the pitch all the time. And the way I see it with Gahey leaving and Mateta wanting to leave in January, they're going to be like two of the biggest losses for Palace because Gahey is probably one of the most influential players for Palace. Obviously, he was the captain. And the defensively, I don't think before the form kind of was like going downhill, they weren't really too bad defensively. It was more attacking wise, they weren't great. I think in the Premier League, with 22 games they've played, they've only scored 23 goals. Like they're not a high scoring side. There's been teams below them in the table that have scored far more goals. And Mateta's probably the most reliable striker Palace have, and the fact that he could be leaving in January is a massive worry. I know they've brought in Brennan Johnson, which is maybe going to give him a bit of hope, but again, he's more of a winger, or at least like an attacking midfielder, rather than a striker. So I think there's really, in terms of the future to the end of the season, it's going to look rather ropey in terms of the fact that because of the players letting go and the refusal of rotating the squad and the extra games having to play, it's not looking promising for them.
Well, this is it. I've seen Glasner talk a lot about kind of squad tiredness, like you both alluded to, kind of everyone feeling a bit jaded, a lack of rotation. And yes, he has a relatively small squad, but I do feel like you've said, he could be rotating more. Like you've got some games, I mean the Macclesfield game he did rotate, that didn't go well for him. Maybe that's possibly why I haven't been doing it yet. I want to go back to one thing you said, Lewis, about them playing kind of high octane football, because I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. Just on a quick kind of look now, I've seen that in terms of pressures per defensive action, which is generally a good mark of how much a team kind of presses up, Crystal
Yeah.
Palace have the highest in the league with 18. So they also quite often kind of sit in kind of like a mid block and let teams come at them and then kind of hit them on the break. So I don't know how high octane that is, if I'm honest.
My main thinking was from looking at stats is that they're the second highest for their sprints and runs. So they've got 12,158. So maybe obviously my wording was incorrect, but they do make a lot of sprints and runs and things like that, and obviously movement on the pitch. I know they're not the highest in terms of kind of how much they cover distance on the pitch. So like you said, they do like to obviously sit and probably stay in that kind of what was it like a block or
Yeah, mid block.
basically they like to stay in their positioning. But yeah, they do have quite a lot of sprints and runs. So maybe obviously I said slightly incorrect there. What I find interesting what you said though is maybe Oliver Glasner possibly is not rotated as maybe an aim at the board. Like maybe the suggestion, obviously, he's not happy. He thinks that one of the things he said was that he felt the squad has been let down and almost that sense of betrayal. He might be trying to make it clear to the board that look, he's not rotating because he wants better backing. Crystal Palace for me, what's interesting is that they've always done this. They've always been a club who have basically sold their best players. Steve Parish has never really invested all of that money back into the club, and they've made adequate signings. And normally, then players who they've brought in have got better, and then the cycle started again, and they sell them. I think that obviously this season specifically, losing two of the best in short succession hasn't helped, but I think it has to be expected a little bit that this would happen to Crystal Palace. It's just how they react now. I don't think you planned for maybe Oliver Glasner to do what he did in the press conference, but for me, I think they will be okay. Like I want to make that clear. I think this is something that happens quite regularly for them. It's just that maybe this one's been blown out of proportion a little bit.
Well, you say this, they couldn't have expected Glasner to do this. could they maybe have expected it? Like his time at Wolfsburg, his time at Frankfurt, both ended under very similar circumstances after about the same amount of time. He spent 2 years at Wolfsburg, he spent 2 years at Frankfurt, he's now spent 2 years at Crystal Palace. Similar rumblings again, and then bang, he's off. So he does seem to have a bit of a track record for this at the minute.
Not true. Yeah, I think Glasner is someone where, like you've said, he's won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace. Maybe he thinks that's as far as he can take this club, possibly. And like you've said, he often has disagreements with the board, or is often easily unsettled. It's interesting. I just don't think it seems a lot of panic at the moment, and in short succession, as you've just given the timeline, it seems very bad for Crystal Palace. But they have got the most injuries in the league currently. They've got 13 as it stands, including Saul being at AFCON, so he's obviously going to come back into the side. There are positives to take looking forward in terms of if you bring back Kamada into the side, Munoz, who's been out for all the season, Eddie Nketiah is currently injured. He's got 4 goals this season. Yes, he's nowhere near obviously an attacking kind of clinical striker. But him coming back into the side, if they potentially lose Mateta, yeah, they clearly do need to make some signings and bring players in. But it's just maybe just it's not as bad as I think it looks right now. It can improve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Crystal Palace are going down this season. Look, they've had too good of a start to the season, I'd say, to kind of get dragged into that. Um, I think the interesting one is next season, where they go from there. Like the next appointment's obviously massive. Who else could they lose? Like Mateta's going to go. Wouldn't be surprised if a big club came in for Adam Wharton. Maybe Daniel Munoz as well. Like you could see that whole squad getting really ripped apart more than it already has been. And it's that kind of thing of when you see people jumping ship, you jump with them. No one wants to be on the sinking ship. So I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Charlie, what are your thoughts on them kind of this season, then going into next season?
Thing is with this season, kind of just like quickly going back on obviously what we're saying about how Glasner just doesn't agree with the board. I think in some ways you could maybe support that with the fact how he has managed to win them the FA Cup and gain European football. You'd maybe expect a bit more of a backing in terms of bringing in some better quality players, whether they're going to be on the bench or not. When we look at this season, it's one of those you can't really the mess they're in. You don't expect them to go really much higher on the table compared to where they are now, currently at 13th. Like Lewis said, I don't think they're going to get relegated. There's maybe going to be that potential risk where the form's going to drop so much that people are going to start thinking that it's a huge possibility that Palace will maybe go down into that relegation battle, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think, as we said before, they're always going to be that team that are going to kind of eventually fix themselves and just maintain a decent spot in the table for the rest of the season. But when you look at next season, yeah, like you said, like players like Wharton, Munoz, like if once they're gone, it's going to be a struggle to bring in the same or better quality players to bring in for next season. And the thing is, at the start of this season, we were probably thinking that because of how they've won the FA Cup and maybe because of getting European football, there was really this possibility that maybe they were going to try and compete for like a European spot or just be on like just the outside of it, borderline. But for next season, it really does seem that they're just going to be relegation battlers, and I can't see it going anywhere else, especially if they do sell key players that are currently in the squad now and they can't bring in any more better quality players next season. It just doesn't seem likely they're going to do that very well.
Hmm.
I would say one thing. Sorry, oh sorry. It just one thing is just you're saying about if this sinking ship and the idea that if they lose their key players. But if you go back to this season, they lost Elise like the season before, and then they lost Eze, and yet they were still able to attract with the European football the likes of Yeremy Pino, who was one of probably Europe's kind of young prodigies at the time in terms of how he was playing at Villarreal. I do think they still have a sense of attraction. I know that this season's different, whereas next season they might not have European football, but I think they still are a team where players will want to go to Crystal Palace. I don't think it's going to be maybe as dire as maybe what you've suggested.
I do think that, but I feel as if like the way obviously we've seen about like Eze and Elise, for me it's starting to look like that with the players that are at Palace and eventually going to bigger clubs, it's almost like Palace is being treated as a stepping stone rather than like just a club which is looking to try and aim higher than it previously has in like the Premier League, for instance. I think this is the thing with Palace is that because of the deals that are being pushed towards like these good players, they're too good to refuse. The quality of the players that Palace have had, again, like we said, Eze, Elise. I mean, again, we could go back to like Wilfred Zaha as well, for instance. Like the
Would you
quality of
not?
these
Would you not
players.
say though? Would you not say that if you look at Bournemouth, it's exactly the same. It's like Brighton as well. It's not just Palace. That's the model of them kind of clubs in the Premier League. Unfortunately, that their best players, if you look at Semenyo going, they do get poached by the bigger clubs. But that's just the way of the football in terms of the Premier League. It's not just isolated to Crystal Palace.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
well,
think
funny you say that because I was just going to mention Bournemouth about again how they're treated as like a stepping stone. Of course, the two centre halves from last season, who I can't remember how much they ended up being sold for, but obviously I mean, joined together, it was literally triple figures, not triple figures. It was like hundreds of millions anyway. Make sure I get that right. But yeah, I was just going to say about like Bournemouth, how they're almost being treated as like a stepping stone club as well. Because again, we've seen as well with Semenyo going to City, and it's one of them things really where for that club, do you really see any big positives for the long term if you know your quality players are going to leave within potentially the next transfer window? And I think Palace are always going to find a way to fix themselves. But the way I see it through this season, if they don't bring any quality players that they potentially have done this season, I know Jeremy Pino has probably been like the biggest shout in terms of, oh, well, we're expecting this bloke to do well. But there hasn't really been, I don't think there's really been anyone else that Palace have signed that's really stood out to me that much that makes me think, well, next season they really do just look like they're going to maintain a position in the Prem. I just can't really see it.
I don't know why we're talking so much about Palace being a stepping stone club and that being a slight on them. That's just football. Like
Yeah.
everyone's a stepping stone
I
unless you're
guess,
Elton of
yeah.
Arsenal. That's just how it is. Like you're gonna have good players. They're gonna leave. They're gonna go to bigger things. They're going to better things. People just leave. That is football. I think if Glasner wasn't aware of that, he went to Crystal Palace. He shouldn't have taken the job. Simple as.
To be fair, you also
I would
said,
just
sorry.
thought I just really would have thought maybe there would have been a bit more of like long term in terms of the players potentially staying there longer. Like if I would have maybe liked to see the owner actually show a bit more promise into Palace by allowing them to try and be stepping up as a bigger club. Because again, like yeah, I can't really defend my point for much longer, so I'm running out of
To be
like
fair though,
reasons
like
to give.
to
But
be fair, you're saying about the fact that like then you're saying with them being like a stepping stone, and the fact that they don't have anything to look forward to in that sense. You kind of alluded to, but surely the FA Cup and then winning that is an example of they've when they have that moment of something for the fans to give them that excitement, even if they are that smaller club and they can't help that and that's their identity and that's just the way football goes. They always have that sense of they can every now and then surprise, and there's lots of examples of that with many different teams. You take Bournemouth, you take Aston Villa recently, you take other clubs that even like Brighton when they got European football a couple of seasons ago. They always get Chelsea coming in at Brighton to take their best players. Like they always get bigger clubs coming, but they always have that sense there is something to look forward to. There is always something there.
yeah, I guess that's going to be the case. It's just like they're going to be like a surprise element, really. And again, like when they did win the FA Cup, of course, it was a huge shock to everyone, and of course, it would have felt like one of the best things in the world for Palace fans. But I just feel like from like if we're looking from like a Premier League point of view, you'd wonder if the board are hoping to maybe because like Palace for years, it's always just been like mid-table,
But
and
that's sustainable. That's sustainable for them.
it's sustainable, yeah. But I just think maybe why don't the board try and maybe push them to maybe try and get like some sort of consistent in terms of like a top half finish, or at least trying to somewhat battle for the last spot of European football. I just because that's what some there's been like I want to say Brighton for instance they've like there's been a couple of times they've actually been trying to have that push into like top six, maybe top seven. Sometimes they've been occasionally successful, sometimes they haven't. I just think there's certain clubs where they have, similar to Palace, they've kind of had this consistency of maintaining a sustainable position in the Prem, but they've eventually gone on to try and fight for like a decent, an even better position in the league. I know it's kind of backfired on them the season after, where they've dropped down a bit in the table because of, well, the games having to play in Europe as well. But I just think maybe the board maybe want to just push it slightly more in terms of expectations, but that's just more or less in the long term.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I kind of disagree with you. I don't think they could have done much more.
Yeah.
They've got them into Europe. They won the FA Cup. What more do you want from them? But we'll agree to disagree. I'm going to quickly end this section just because I want us to talk about where we think they're going to finish next season and a brief kind of prediction of who you think is going to take over. So, 30 seconds, Lewis, take it away.
Yeah, I think that one of the names I've seen is Frank Lampard. Obviously, it depends on what he's doing with Coventry in terms of can they get promoted. But apparently, Steve Parish is very excited and fond of Frank Lampard. So I think that's a potential there. And in regards to obviously next season, I think, as we've already said, I think they'll go into next season probably the same as they always have with a mid-table finish. I think that's just Crystal Palace, and every now and then, as we've said, they do get a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but generally mid-table.
Charlie, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to say Frank Lampard. Uh, he's probably again like with the managerial career he's had, it's not looked the greatest. And way I'm trying to back my point in terms of Crystal Palace being sort of relegation battlers for next season, I think Lampard's going to be that person that can really sort of keep them up, but they're not going to look into be doing as well as they have done in previous seasons.
Hmm. I mean, two names I've seen linked. One is Bordalas out at Getafe, who apparently plays turgid football, so I wouldn't be too surprised. Or the other one is Andoni Iraola, which I'd be
Seen
absolutely
that.
stunned if
I've
he
seen
that
that.
happened.
Surprised me.
I'll be stunned if that happens. If that happens, fair play. I'm saying Roy Hodgson comes back, one last swan song, they win the league. That's how I see it next season. Anyway, that's our kind of chat on Crystal Palace. We will be back shortly for a quiz. Hello, and welcome back to the Hoof Football podcast, where it's time now for the quiz. And as per, we start with a lineup. So, we've spoken a lot about clubs in crisis today in terms of Crystal Palace. So, today's lineup comes from a similar one in Tottenham Hotspur, because Thomas Frank over there is looking like a dead man walking. They are currently sat, was it 14th in the Premier League? They are not doing too great. They are doing very well in the Champions League, so fair play to them. But yeah, things are not looking good for Thomas Frank at Spurs. Now, interestingly, and I was very intrigued by it when I saw this. According to the bookies, former manager Pochettino is third favourite to take the job, despite currently being manager of the US men's national team, 6 months away from a home World Cup. I don't see it myself, but apparently he's the third favourite, and that got me thinking. So today's lineup comes from the 2014-15 season when Spurs beat West Ham 1-0 away from home in the Argentine's first game as manager. But who played for Spurs that day? So it's the opening day 2014-15.
Oh,
Pochettino's first game. It was a 90th minute winner as well. Just to add on to that.
90th minute winner.
And I will tell you all
Um,
Mauro Zarate was on the bench. So if anyone remembers the Zarate kid, it's a shout out for you over there. Mohamed Diame as well on the bench for West Ham.
what a
Um,
player.
yeah, great player, wasn't he? Who else we got? Ricardo Vaste. James Collins was in there. Winston Reid, obviously. Great football player. Excellent football player. Enner Valencia, who was one of the top scorers at the 2014 World Cup, if you didn't know. Great player. Great player. So this game was won with a 90th minute goal. It
What was the score? Did you say? Sorry,
was 1-0. It was a
it was just
4-2-3-1
1-0.
as well, by the way, if you want to know the formation.
Right.
It was
Uh,
yeah.
I think
90th
I've
minute
smashed
winner.
this.
There
This
was
is
a
this
red
is my
card in
this
there
is
as
my
well.
this is my season.
This is you on.
No,
I
I'm
can't
actually
remember.
going to take that back because I gave a big speech once about the Newcastle lineup and then got not a single name right.
No, you've said it. We'll go to you first, Lewis, because you've said it was big. I believe in you. We'll
I'm
give
worried
Charlie a
now.
little bit longer, but
Yeah, I'm struggling for the centre half for some reason.
okay, fair enough.
Um,
I feel like you might get a trick here. There's a couple
uh,
of names that you could get wrong.
I'm gonna have to stop
yeah,
Charlie.
I'm a bit worried in terms of the keeper.
Okay, I'll tell you, it's
Uh,
not Venom Vicaria, if that helps.
no.
It's not Vicaria. There's also no Matisse Tell in this Spurs team, much to my surprise.
God's sake. God's sake. There's a few players which I know I should get, but I'm gonna end up missing them out.
Charlie, I'm pushing you for time now. You got 10 seconds. This is for the listeners at home. Charlie doesn't look best pleased about this. He's looking stunned. Um,
I'm disappointed in myself because I think I should know more. Oh, who
okay.
played that flipping? Who would have played from that 2013 season?
Charlie, it's all right. It's just because I'm
Yeah.
the older statesman here that I know more about the
Yeah.
older years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Charlie, you can go.
Yeah. I've run out of time, so
Can't go.
it's
Lewis, as I said, we're going to go to you first. So
Okay,
run me through your team, mate.
okay, here we go. Hugo Lloris in goal.
Hmm.
Carl Walker, Federico Fazio, and Jan Vertonghen with a Danny Rose at left back.
Okay.
I've then gone because I know Ben loves him, so we'll see. Benjamin Stambouli
Ooh.
with a Christian Eriksen, Moussa Dembele, and then I've gone Eric Lamella, Andros Townsend, and Harry Kane. That's what I've gone
Harry
for.
Kane. Shout out Harry Kane. Is that Harry Kane's
Harry
mum?
Kane. Harry Kane.
Okay. We have your score down, Charlie. Talk me through yours, mate.
okay. I've only got 10 players, so I've got Hugo Lloris,
Hmm.
I've got Kyle Walker, I've got Yang Vertonghen, Danny Rose. I've then got Eric Dyer, uh, Moussa Dembele,
Okay.
Christian Eriksen. I kind of don't know what formation I've gone with, but I've also put Bentaleb on there,
Okay.
and
All
then
right.
I've got Eric Lamella on. I can't remember which wing he would have been on, probably right wing, I think, and then up front Harry Kane.
Okay. Right. Let me note your down, and then I will let you know
I feel
the
like it's
score.
actually close because I think there's a couple of names that I could have easily got wrong.
A couple of people on the bench here. For a little throwback, first of all, Lewis Holtby. Great name.
Yeah,
Oh
great
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Other players on the bench, Roberto Soldado, Andros Townsend, and Harry Kane
Oh,
on the bench. So,
Oh
I
God's
know who it
sake.
is.
the team is as follows. Hugo Lloris in goal. At left back, it's Danny Rose. Now, the centre backs, Yunus Kabul, neither of you remembered, and
Oh
Eric
my!
Dyer. Eric Dyer was at centre back.
Oh, it
Oh
was
no.
at centre back. I thought it might be at CDM.
The right back, you both said Kyle Walker. It is a Kyle, but it's Kyle Norton.
You know
Oh
what? This
God!
is going to be one of them. It's going to be one of them where
In
I've.
midfield, they played a double pivot of Etienne Capoue. Again, what are we doing?
Oh,
What are we doing? And then Nabil Bentaleb. So great shout, Charlie. Great shout.
I've had him there. Yeah.
I did appreciate the Benjamin Stambouli shout though, as much as he wasn't there. And then in the attacking line, you've got Christian Eriksen off the left, apparently, Eric Lamella in the 10, and Aaron Lennon off the right, with Emmanuel
Aaron Lennon.
Adebayor up top.
I thought Adebayor. The minute he said it wasn't Kane, I was like, it's going to be Adebayor.
The scores on the doors after the lineup, despite your confidence, Lewis, it's yourself on 4 and Charlie on 6. So
Do you know
great,
what? It's every
great
time I
shout.
say that, and also it's just one of them teams where who Carl Norton.
Carl Norton. He got sent off that game as well. Okay. Question number 2. In the past 20 seasons, so since the 2005-2006 season, only 3 teams have won 300 or more games in the Championship. Derby with 302, Middlesbrough with 303, and which other team? So which other team in the past 20 seasons has won 300 or more Championship games?
Oh, well, it's definitely not Hull.
Well,
Um,
that is the question.
I've.
Gonna need a minute.
Oh no, I don't want to say it. I've
Got an
got my
answer.
answer.
Okay. Charlie, you can go first.
Right, this is. God no. Oh, it's too late. I've gone with Leeds United.
Okay. Lewis?
I went with a similar theory, but I went with Nottingham Forest.
It's Cardiff City with
It's
327.
Cardiff.
You just got to think about it, they've just been in the Championship for like 400 years. Okay.
Yeah.
David Luiz is question number 3 because he returned to Stamford Bridge on Wednesday night, except he didn't because he didn't play. But Paphos lost 1-0 away from home. Now, across his career, the Brazilian has played most of his football for the Blues with 248 appearances. Can you tell me which club he's played for the most outside of Chelsea? And just for context, there's one game between second and third. So the options are Benfica, Arsenal, Flamengo, or PSG.
Um,
Hmm.
oh, I hate these kind of questions.
God's sake, I can't remember how long he was at Arsenal for, but it definitely doesn't seem like he was there for as long
I'm
as.
locking in an answer. I'm locking in.
Charlie, you ready?
Yeah,
Lewis, go first.
I'm gonna go with Benfica.
Charlie?
I've also gone with Benfica.
It was Flamengo. It was
Oh, that's
Flamengo.
fine. My second was going to be PSG.
Mango.
Yeah, Benfica were the team that were one behind Flamengo. So, question number 4. Anthony Gordon hasn't scored a Premier League goal from open play in over a year. 372 days ago it was, sorry, at the time of recording, to be precise. But who was that goal against? Was it against Wolves, Man United, Leicester, or Arsenal?
Yeah, I've got an answer.
Charlie?
Got my answer.
You can go first, Charlie.
I've gone with Leicester City.
Lewis?
I've gone with Arsenal.
It's Wolves. What's
Oh,
happening here?
brilliant.
This is a terrible performance so far. So we go to the final question. And Lewis, you need to get it bang on because it is the closest to.
Oh,
Here we go. What is Bayern Munich's goal difference in the Bundesliga at the time of recording?
goal
That's
difference.
your closest to. What's their goal
Oh,
difference? You need it bang on, Lewis,
I ain't got a
for
clue.
those extra points.
They score a lot of goals. They score a lot of goals. Do they concede a lot of goals? I don't know. Their goal
yeah, they've
difference.
actually got a minus goal difference.
Minus 20.
Let's go with what does an average Prem team? Yeah,
Don't shout your answer out for the record.
I've got an answer I can give.
Charlie, have you got an
I've
answer?
got an answer, but it is bizarre.
Okay. Lewis, because you need the points, I'm going to go to you first.
I'm gonna go 59.
Charlie?
I went with 56.
Okay, I will tell you. The answer's in the 50s. So you're both very close.
Turns out it's like 57.
It is 57. Yeah.
Fucking
Oh,
hell.
that was
So
one.
Charlie gets the point. Yeah, there it is. That's the final score of the quiz. It's Charlie 7, Lewis 4. It's a good win for Charlie.
Sometimes you've got to let the weaklings win.
Shocking quiz performance from
Wow.
both of you, to be
Wow.
honest. Apart from the lineup, that was
What's your
brilliant.
what's your quiz record, Lewis? I'd like to check back at that.
I don't actually know, but I feel like I've been beating you recently.
Yeah, you probably have done.
Right.
Quite a
Well,
few
enough of
times.
this silly squabbling. Charlie, give me your trivia.
Yeah, right. So we know that this weekend it is the good old match between Arsenal and Manchester United, and I thought I would take us back to the 2011 to 2012 season where the infamous 8-2 victory at Old Trafford happened. I want you to tell me how how many goal scorers were there for Manchester United in the 8-2 win? And who were they? Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll say who were the goal scorers just to kind of make it easy for yourself. There were five.
Oh, yeah.
Can you
What
name me
year
the
again?
five goal scorers at 2011 to 2012 season?
Right.
No, Ben, we can do it collectively, I think.
Okay.
Get five
I'm
names
happy if
collectively.
you want to do it collectively.
Yeah,
Wazza.
yeah.
Waz has definitely won, yeah.
Um,
Is Nanny one?
Nanny is they scored one,
okay.
yeah. Rudy
Was
scored a hat
was
trick.
Berbatov there at that point?
I don't
I mean, I'm assuming he's not
think
on the
he
list by
was,
the
but
time he's
he
delayed,
didn't
so
score anyway.
we'll sack that off.
Tevez.
That was the next one I was thinking.
No, I think he was at City at the time.
Great.
Is it 11 to 12 season?
11 to 12 season.
Okay.
Paul Scholes.
No,
Giggs.
Yeah, Giggs move.
no,
Anderson, the Brazilian.
no,
Bebe.
no,
Patrice
Darren,
Evra.
no,
Darren Fletcher.
no,
Oh, Vidic got one. I know he did. Come on.
no,
Ah,
Did Sir Alex Ferguson score from the halfway line?
No, no, no. Right, I'll give you a clue to one of them. One of them, he's currently an English striker and he still plays in the Prem now.
Michael
Danny
Owen.
Welbeck.
Danny Welbeck, yes.
Ah,
Michael Owen, no. You got two more. One of them, I think now he plays more of a full back now, but used to play as a winger.
Antonio Valencia.
No.
That was a good shout. Um, Mate, I don't know.
You
Yeah,
used
we
to
give
play
up.
for Aston
We give up,
Villa.
Charlie.
Oh, Ashley Young.
Ashley Young.
Yeah, and then there's one more. I think he's South Korean.
See,
Oh,
Ji Sung
Park.
Park.
Yeah, Park guy.
Yes, yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fair
so
enough.
yeah, Danny Welbeck scored one, Ashley Young scored a brace, Wayne Rooney scored a hat trick, Nani scored, and Park Ji Sung scored as well. So there
Wow.
you go.
Wow. I'm sure all United fans will be hoping for that again this weekend. But hey, that is the end of the Hoof Football podcast for this week. Great episode again. So thanks for coming, guys. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check us out on all our socials, and we will catch you on the next episode. All the best. Ta